Welcome to
Urban Beginnings,
a podcast about navigating urban planning and its impact on community.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 5 of Urban Beginnings. Today, we are thrilled to have Isaac Gonzalez, Vice Chair of the Active Transportation Commission for Sacramento, with us today. Isaac, you're a native Sacramentan who is involved in so much in this great city. And aside from us being neighbors, I've had the pleasure of seeing you in action as president of the Tahoe Park Neighborhood Association. You are also the founder of Slow Down Sacramento, where you promote safer and more respectful driving habits in our city. I didn't do justice to all your amazing contributions in my intro, so I will let you take the stage and introduce yourself to our audience. Welcome.
Oh, well, thank you both. I'm so happy to be here, and I just appreciate the platform, the opportunity to talk about stuff. I'm involved in a lot of stuff. Active Transportation Commission has been about a year now, which has been really great to talk about what we can do to make our city more friendly for walking, biking, rolling, anything that isn't inside of a car. Slow Down Sacramento has been really rewarding so far. We launched that last August, and the response has been overwhelming. It's definitely hit a nerve of people who want to see safer streets in our city. And Neighborhood Association president is something I've done for a long time now. Served on the board and served as president now for a few years. And if any of you listeners are having a visceral reaction to the phrase neighborhood association, I understand. Neighborhood associations can be toxic a lot of the times, unfriendly places to be in, especially if you're black or brown, to be honest. But in my tenure in my neighborhood association over the past 12 years, the longest serving current board member, we've moved to a place of real inclusivity intentionally and have made our association very welcoming, very friendly. So please don't feel of any ill will toward me when you hear I'm the president of the neighborhood association. We're really, really, really a great organization, and it's been a long work to get there. It wasn't that way when I joined, but we've made great strides, and I feel really proud of the work we've done there. So we're a good org.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that, and I appreciate those comments. Thank you for that introduction.
Yeah, thank you, Isaac. And again, welcome to Urban Beginnings. I would like to start off just by, some of our listeners might not be familiar with the terms active transportation and tactical urbanism. Can you go ahead define them for us?
Sure, happy to. So active transportation is basically transportation in any other means besides a personal automobile. So you could be walking, riding your bike, roller skating, using a scooter, even using public transit. That's going to be active transportation that requires your active participation. As far as instead of passive transportation, which is you just get in your car and you drive to where you want to go. I love the term active transportation as it's defined, and I had to correct a really, really well-intended community outreach coordinator for a college campus near where Blair and I live, who recently called it alternative transportation. She was going over this new campus that's being built and all of the great amenities for alternative transportation. And I didn't do it in front of the entire group, but later I took her aside and said, it's not alternative to walk. You were born with legs. Actually, that's the main mode of transportation. The alternative is getting in your car. And I told her, I said, I feel you're doing a disservice when you call it alternate or alternative transportation, right? It's like less than or something different or fringe or weirdos do this. No, it's active transportation. It's a really great thing that we need to focus on. And I just returned from a trip from Paris, which was wonderful. And they got it down over there, right? It's like every mode of transportation, every path to get from one point to the other prioritizes every user on that road. If it's a cyclist, if it's a walker, if it's a driver, if it's someone who wants to get to public transportation like via the metro, it's all thought out in a way that basically gives equal credence to everybody. And I'd say even now, if you're following the news, more credence to people who are riding their bike away from cars, which is really great. And when you see that intentionality and you see how when cities are designed like that, they're just vibrant places to be. They're just places where The city's alive. It has a pulse. People feel safe walking around. Don't feel like you're going to, be the victim of vehicular violence. So active transportation is awesome. And in Sacramento, we have an active transportation commission, which is charged with looking at projects that are coming up down the line and plans, and then giving advice to staff and city council. We're not a decision-making body, unfortunately, so we don't get to actually say do this or do that, but advisory in that capacity. As far as tactical urbanism goes, it's something that I've been very interested in over the past few years, because Sacramento, like many cities throughout our country, is facing this legacy of basically unsustainable liabilities when it comes to our roadway networks. We built out these roadway networks, many of which like post-World War II or 70s, 80s suburban boom, with really no thought about longevity of maintenance and how we would fund that. And it's going to perpetually always get more expensive. It's never going to get cheaper to maintain roads than it does today. So we get this massive unfunded liability as a network throughout our cities that defines our cities. And it was, all of them for the most part were designed with cars in mind. Not even people, cars. And so now what we find is we're moving into this mindset where we realize, oh, we should probably prioritize people over cars and how people actually live or want to live in healthy ways. How do we retrofit these legacy cities, these arterials, in ways that make them safer and more conducive to people? And it's notoriously difficult because it's expensive. It takes a great deal amount of time, research, studies, outreach, grant writing. In the city of Sacramento, to address the problems with a legacy corridor, most of which are in underserved communities, it'll take a decade and hundreds of millions of dollars. And between now and that time, when we fix these roads, people are dying. People are getting hurt. People are getting killed, destroying families, ruining people's lives. Tactical urbanism addresses this in a really impressive way. It's basically a philosophy of taking off-the-shelf products, vertical delineators or bollards, jersey rail, paint, planters, things you can get in the store, things you can order online from like Granger or some roadway maintenance website. Bolting these things into the ground, striping new lines, installing a planter, things that maybe cost tens of thousands of dollars instead of hundreds of millions of dollars, and you can get immediate driver behavioral change tomorrow. You can narrow an intersection. You can create pedestrian islands, refuge islands. You can do all kinds of things. You don't have to wait a decade. It doesn't cost a lot. You can be experimental. You can try something. And if it doesn't work, you can unbolt it, put it somewhere else. And this is just an emerging mindset that some cities are taking on and deciding this is how we're going to get to Vision Zero goals. This is how we're going to reduce vehicular violence and fatalities in our communities. And it's working. In cities like Jersey City, New Jersey, and Hoboken, New Jersey, where this is really like fundamental to their ethos, their way of thinking, they've sustained year over year zero fatalities. Motorists, cyclists, walkers, year over year. And so I really want to bring that to Sacramento. And that's why I started Slow Down Sacramento, to educate people about this opportunity, to get people thinking about our community in a whole different way, and how we could, instead of going, it just can't be done, it's too expensive, it takes forever, nothing can be happy, just the way this road is, sorry. And thinking, no, let's try something new. Let's be bold. Let's do something disruptive, really, system disruptive things that will change road behavior and reduce the likelihood of injuries and fatalities at places where we know it happens with alarming frequency. Sacramento has a high injury collision network where 17% of our roadways account for like 90% of our injuries. So we know where this infrastructure needs to go in, right? We have the data. We can say, this is a hot spot. Look at it like an NTSB plane crash. What happened? What can we do today to fix it? Ground the fleet until we know what part to swap out. Fix this intersection until we get no more injuries or deaths here. We can do it tomorrow. We don't have to wait a decade. That's what I want to see in Sacramento.
For sure. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So much of what you said really resonates with me very deeply. I wanted to talk for a minute about road diets. I love them. I was introduced to them probably about 4 years ago. And as you know, overall statistics tell us that road diets offer a practical and cost effective way to improve pedestrian safety. They encourage a lot of safe behaviors. By reducing vehicle lanes and repurposing space for non vehicle modes, it has a traffic calming effect. And so, beyond safety, road diets and other complete street interventions reduce vehicle miles traveled and greenhouse gas emissions. We would love to hear from you about what Sacramento is prioritizing and how implementation is going.
Well, I want to give a lot of kudos to the city of Sacramento. And there's many staffers that I work with that are really trying to push the envelope as hard as they can. Sometimes it's hitting roadblocks within very different departments that they work in. I get it. We're an old city. We're the oldest city in the state of California. That was incorporated. So, we bring a lot of baggage with that history, right? Old infrastructure, roads that were designed in ways for horses and really like stagecoaches. So we are trying to be more intentional and more thoughtful about where we put our resources. And then I said it again, we have unfunded liabilities up the wazoo. In Sacramento, it's like $4 billion in unfunded projects that are currently basically approved and ready to go, but we don't have the money to do it. And that doesn't even include just the maintenance, the deferred maintenance that we're dealing with here, okay? So again, kudos to the city of Sacramento. They decided to come up with a transportation priority plan. And they wanted to look at where they should put their resources since they are in a moment of scarcity and can't do everything. And so the city has decided that their transportation priority plan focuses on the underserved communities first, which is great because we know that systematically transportation plans have been used to cut up neighborhoods, separate affluent neighborhoods from less than affluent neighborhoods. It's very intentional. It wasn't by accident. Redlining and the federal highway program did this on purpose and destroyed communities, vibrant communities. So the city is looking at its resources and its plans and prioritizing now the underserved populations in Sacramento, which is great. I think it's awesome. But again, we don't have enough resources to do things fast enough. I wish we did. We don't. City of Sacramento is also currently looking at its design standards, which is like where I want to come in with the tactical urbanism stuff. It's not a tool in the toolbox right now. There's no engineer that's going to say, hey, you know what I want to do? I want to divert from policy and just experiment with this and then put my neck out on the line and see if it goes. No, it's not in the toolbox right now. So I want to get tactical urbanism in the toolbox while we start working on design updates. And then the last thing we're doing is we're actually doing an update to our active transportation plan. It's called Streets for People, and we're reaching out to every community and just saying, what do you want? What would you like to see? Where would you like to see it? And we need that because I'll tell you, what City Hall gets the most is calls from people saying, traffic is bad, make it faster. Traffic is bad, make it better. Get these speed bumps off my street. Those cyclists are crazy. This the calls they get. They need this other input, this counter input of, I don't want to have to drive my car every day to work from Elk Grove to downtown. Or I do want crosswalk islands, crosswalk, speed bumps in my neighborhood. Or better yet, I do want to see changes to my built environment that is more conducive to cycling. Every time someone says to me, oh, cyclists are crazy, they don't follow the rules, I'm like, you know what? If I had to navigate a hostile environment like Sacramento is to cyclists, where maybe 0.1% of money has been invested in the cycling infrastructure compared to vehicle use, yeah, I might, do whatever it takes to make it home as well too, even if it means isn't following vehicle code to the letter. So cry me a river about cyclists not following the rules. Once we get equitable cycling infrastructure in the city, and we still see cyclists deviating from the rules, then we can talk. Again, Paris, every roadway, bike lane. And you see everyone working in harmony because they've put their money where their mouth is and said, this is important to us, we're going to do it. Sacramento, you get a little white stripe on the side of a arterial where people are going 55 miles per hour. Lethal speeds for a cyclist. And then you're supposed to say, oh, that cyclist is crazy. They pulled out right in front of me. Yeah, there's no infrastructure for them. What are they supposed to do? So that's some of the things we're working on. I'm excited about it, but we need to do more.
Absolutely. We definitely need to do more. You mentioned earlier Jersey City and Hoboken. I'm from New Jersey, so I'm very familiar with some of their successes. They've had much success reducing traffic fatalities, and I believe Hoboken has gone something like 7 consecutive years without a traffic death.
Yep.
I'm just kind of wondering, what lessons can we learn from Hoboken and Jersey City? What potentially have they done right that we can implement in a city like Sacramento?
Well, one thing that they did was they created like a director of infrastructure, because we have so many different silos in city government that are working on their own paths, but they directly influence one another. And I'll give you one example. In the city of Sacramento, we have protected bike lanes in the Midtown core. Midtown downtown core is, for those of you who don't know Sacramento, it's the original land that was plotted out when the city founders found Sacramento. It's a grid system. It's numbers and letters. It's very rigid, and it's 100% on the high injury collision network because it's intersection, which is where we see most of our conflict. So we see most of our crashes and injuries. We have protected bike lanes in downtown Sacramento. Awesome. And when I say protected, they have bollards. They have plastic bollards. If you wanted to, you could obviously plow through them, but we call them protected. Separated. These bollards and the width of the bike lane are narrow enough that it requires a special street sweeper in order to clean them. Okay? It's a narrow sweeper. So the city purchased 2 street sweepers, narrow street sweepers, so they could maintain this infrastructure. Serving on the Active Transportation Commission, we were given a presentation about a new bike lane being installed in South Sacramento and how it wasn't going to be a separated bike lane because they didn't have the street sweeper infrastructure to service it. And so I asked staff at that meeting, so you're saying Midtown, downtown, where all the cool stuff happens, is good enough for protected bike lanes, but South Sacramento, an old, disadvantaged community, doesn't get them just because we don't have enough street sweepers? And it turned out the reason that we don't have enough street sweepers is because it's put into the utility department's budget, like solid waste. Mm-hmm. And ratepayers have to cover 100% of the cost of those services. So to get additional street sweeper infrastructure would require either a reconfiguring of their budget so they can make it work within their means, or raising the rates for ratepayers to pay for those different things. But you got Department of Utilities in one hand and Department of Transportation in the other, and DOT definitely wants protected bike lanes anywhere they can put them, but the Department of Utilities doesn't want to deal with ratepayers crying, foul when their rates go up a couple bucks a month. And it's like, the reason we can't have protected bike lanes in an underserved community is because of the Department of Utilities? What is up with that? And you see that all the time. So in Hoboken, they got this director of infrastructure who can look at everything holistically and say, how do we work all together to make sure this entire system is cohesive, holistically working together? And so that's, I think, one of the biggest wins that you get out of Hoboken. Again, looking at every crash as if it was an NTSB incident, analyzing it immediately and going, today we're going to change this. Today we'll put cones. Next week we'll put bollards that we can bolt in the ground. And if that works in 6 months, it's going to be concrete. We don't do that here in Sacramento. When someone gets hit and killed by a car, at best, we put up a white bicycle, a ghost bike. And that's not even the city doing that. That's advocates reminding people somebody died here. Nothing changes. Nothing changes the road. No one says, oh, maybe we should look at that. What can we do differently? For the most part, nothing changes. We need to change our mindset. instead of complacency, we need urgency in every single instance.
Uh, so Isaac, from your viewpoint, how have city policies either facilitated or, and you kind of spoke about this, or on the same topic, how have city policies have either facilitated or hindered the adoption of tactical strategies to enhance pedestrian safety and experience? Like for instance, while some municipalities have effectively deployed tactical crosswalks, infrastructure through simple materials and community efforts, others encounter obstacles in implementation, such as practices.
Yeah, again, it's just not in the city's toolbox right now. So, and I get it. Our city is extraordinarily risk adverse. I had a friend inside the city tell me the city gets sued every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so every single day, the city attorneys are getting served with new lawsuits about something. Somebody stubbed their toe. The curb wasn't painted yellow like it should have been. Are we going to go to court on this, or are we going to settle? So I think every time the city looks at doing something, they just kind of clinch up and go like, well, should we or shouldn't we? And in that hesitation about what may happen down the line with litigation, we do nothing. There's inaction. So I want to give the city a little bit of cover, and I think we need some state legislation to give cities more cover in this regard. So there's definitely something beyond the city just adding tactical urbanism to the toolbox that's going to be a remedy. I think our state legislature is going to say, when cities do this and experiment, as long as they take best engineering guidelines into effect and they aren't deficient in their duties, they can't be sued for liability if someone, stubs their toe on it or runs into it on their bike, the first day it's up. It's like, this is just what we're going to be doing, because these things happen anyways, except people get really hurt and killed when we don't do anything. Someone stubbing their toe because we fix things is better than someone getting killed or hurt repeatedly at problematic intersections. So there's definitely legislation that needs to come up from high. There's this book, I'm going to butcher it, I'm sorry. The Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which is a book put out by the federal government that says this is what this should look like. This is what a stop sign should look like. This is what a curb should look like. This is what the crosswalk should look like. And our engineers look at it like the Bible and say, it's in the book. I will only do as the book says. Except the book also always says, use your best engineering practices in your own settings. Use your own judgment as needed. And that's the part that most city engineers, I think in Sacramento, just don't adhere to. They don't want to do it. Again, risk adverse, I get it. They don't want to get subpoenaed. They don't want to give testimony about why they made that decision. And, it's scary. So we need that cover from state government to say, you can do it without fear of repercussion as long as you're not totally derelict in your duties.
Thank you. So I know that, sorry, is there an echo?
No, not now. You got it.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned that you recently visited Paris. I have not been to Paris, so I'm really excited about talking to you further about this. I'm personally a very big fan of exploring different cities, active transportation networks, as well as kind of the relationship between their active transportation and their transportation networks. I recently went to Budapest and I was really, really impressed with their safe, reliable, and convenient networks. It was a great experience, learned a lot. I was just wondering if you wanted to share anything else from your trip, any notable experiences or anything that just really stood out for you.
Well, first I tricked my family into going. They thought we were just going to go see, one of the most beautiful visited places in the world, and I really just wanted to go check out the active transportation system and geek out on that every chance I got. But they're no worse for wear. They had a good time. Yeah, I what I really loved about Paris, besides the walking, walk anywhere. We basically lived as Parisians for a week. We got an Airbnb apartment right in the center of town. Didn't want to stay in a hotel. wanted to feel like what the Parisian life was like. Really cool place, and would walk out of our, I don't know what they call it, but basically every Parisian block is like this, like O, and in the center is the courtyard, and they like a main door that everybody goes out through. But like, it's just so cool. We'd walk out this door. We're on the on the street, and then you could walk within half a block to the Franprix, which is the supermarket, the small supermarket, and the metro station's right there. You never looked at the schedule for the metro because you didn't have to. It came every 4 minutes. No schedule required. That kind of frequency is just incredible. In the city of Sacramento, if you want to catch a bus, you better look at the bus schedule because they're coming at best every half hour. And so you miss your bus, that's a major inconvenience.
Yeah.
Every 4 minutes, you walk down to the platform, the metro shows up, it gets loaded, the platform empties, and 4 minutes later, the platform is full again. So that's the adoption rate of the metro, in this city. People are just all about it, which is great. Actually, we rode 3 different kind of rail systems while we were in Paris, which was incredible. We rode the metro inside the city. We took the RAR out to Disneyland, which is like kind of like our Amtrak. It's like a 2-leveled metro rail. And then we took a high speed, not the high speed, but a faster train to get out to the countryside. We went about 80 miles out of the city to the countryside one day. But the station that we went to had all those trains in them, or at least you could get to them from one to the other. So the interconnectedness was just incredible. I would love to see us get somewhere close to that, a semblance of what Paris has one day. It would be incredible. I also went to China in 2018 as part of a sister city delegation. We have a sister city in Jinan, but I got to go to Beijing and Shanghai. And again, the cycling in Beijing is just incredible because a generation ago, there really were no cars, very, very low car ownership. And so while China has made massive mistakes when it comes to their freeway and their roadway infrastructure, they're very much more lanes will fix traffic. One more lane will do it, right? So they have no concept of induced demand and really have done themselves a disservice. They have these ring roads around the city. Our tour guide said, "Hey, look, our traffic is very lucky today. All red," because red's a lucky color, and all the ring roads on the app are red because no one's moving. But the cycling is just everywhere, and it's organic. And I was afraid to even interface with it because I couldn't tell rhyme or reason of it. But it was like starlings moving in a murmuration, the way that the bikes just flowed and people would cross right through each other, but nobody hit each other. The car infrastructure came afterwards, but the first infrastructure was the cycling infrastructure. So it's cool that it's still very, very prevalent there. And just 2 big cities, right? Beijing, Paris. Cycling, all about it.
So cool. Yeah. Sorry, Rogelio. I was gonna say something, but it's actually not that important. So go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No. Just a couple of those things you said, it just sort of made me think about New York. And we don't really talk about New York that much, but I grew up living very close to New York, and then I lived there as an adult for 4 years, and driving is really inconvenient. And so you sort of just adopt a very different lifestyle, and you're very dependent on public transportation, and biking as a way of life. And so you're kind of talking about just people, they've really figured out how to navigate biking in dense public places, and it's just really amazing to kind of watch. And yeah, I'm always I feel very similarly to you. I kind of trick my family into going to trips saying, "Hey, yeah, we're going to do this really fun, amazing trip. It's going to be so relaxing." And it's really not relaxing at all. And I'm just pointing out all the urban stuff and talking about active transportation or making them go on public transportation. So I appreciate everything that you're saying.
To give Sacramento a little bit of credit, last year I went to the Strong Towns National Convening in Charlotte. And I did walk out my front door with my suitcase to a light rail station. It's about a 20-minute walk from my house, but I did it. Walked to the light rail station, rode light rail to downtown, where there is an electric bus that goes to the airport. It was a transfer, so I'm 250 deep into this trip now, all the way to the airport. So it's possible, you have to do a little planning, and it's a little further of a walk, but it is possible in the city to get most places if you want to through public transit. You just have to be really intentional about it. Our last mile service is where we really need a lot of help. It's just getting people from where the bus stop is to where they live or where they need to go. That interconnectedness is something we need to do. When we had scooter infrastructure and bicycle infrastructure, the e-shares, that was good. We've lost bikes here in Sacramento. We no longer have shareable bike systems in Sacramento. We only have scooters, which is unfortunate. But yeah, if you can get to it, if you're walking distance, like, do it. Sacramento, you can do it in Sacramento.
For sure. Can you take a moment to introduce Slow Down Sacramento to our viewers? What's the mission behind it, and why is this project so significant for the Sacramento community?
Yeah, thanks. So, first of all, the best ideas are stolen ideas. And I was driving through Sonoma County, so some winery up there, and traffic was getting backed up on the freeway. So Waze took me off the road through the city of Napa, down someone's neighborhood. They clearly Waze does this all the time, right?
Yeah.
In a very residential, narrow streets. And there's all these signs that say, slow down Napa on everyone's yard. And I was like, oh man, this must happen all the time. Every time the freeway gets backed up, Waze diverts everybody through this residential community. That's terrible. I felt bad for them. But all those slow down Napa signs, like, light bulb in my head. We need to slow down Sacramento. We got to have one of those. We need a campaign like that. And that was like 2 or 3 years ago. So fast forward about a year and a half ago, I purchased a domain. It's renewed a couple of times, slowdownsacramento.org. I'm paying for this thing. I'm not using it. And unfortunately, we had a real tragic situation where a mother at my child's school was hit and killed by a car while waiting to pick up her 6th grade daughter. Someone ran a red light, crashed into another car, and then the first car ended up hitting and crushing this very wonderful person. So we put a lot of energy and effort into fixing that road. That road had been identified for a road diet many years before, and it was a 4-lane arterial, formerly a highway, never redesigned after it lost the designation of highway. So people drive really fast on it because that's the way it's designed to be. And we were able to, keep a media campaign on, a pressure campaign on, advocacy campaign going, and we were able to get $5.5 million from the state and the city to fix that road. So that project is underway right now. It's a road diet, Blair, so you'll love it. It's a road diet. And, we fixed it, and I exhaled when we were done. We're working on it right now. In lightning speed as far as government goes, 8 months between terrible incident to funding, super fast. That's super fast. And I just think to myself, it's a citywide problem. We can't even exhale and go like, great job, because you look in any direction and you see the same thing over and over again. And then I go to this, the Strong Towns conference I just told you about, and I sit in on a couple of great presentations on tactical urbanism. And I've been aware of it and like kind of interested in it, like guerrilla style. Like maybe I want to go put a crosswalk in one night, cover of night. But when I really heard the success stories of these cities that have been doing it, I was like, that's what we need in Sacramento. We need that in Sacramento. But how do you turn on a whole population of people this radical idea, like we're going to change your neighborhood overnight through something like called tactical urbanism, and it's going to help fix our streets? It's a difficult thing, I think, for most average people to understand. Average person doesn't care. They just want no potholes and the lights to come on when they come home and they flip the switch, right? They don't want to worry about that stuff. So we started Slow Down Sacramento. We launched it last August, right before school started, to remind people, slow down. School starting again, be safe. And we started like started a big email list. People go to our website, they sign up for more information. They're getting our lawn signs. We have the lawn signs like Napa does. And again, I'm getting all this information, all this contact information. And the reason I want it is because I send out a newsletter every single week and I tell people, here's the policy that's currently being discussed at our city council, either next week, next month, whatever. Here's another unfortunate story about someone getting hit and killed. And I mean, we've already got 7 of them this calendar year that I've told this year. It's May 2nd today, and we've already had, 7 considerable injuries, fatalities that I even know of. The only way you find out is on the news. The city can't keep a record of it fast enough. So we tell them about policy, tell them about tragedies, unfortunately, and then we tell them about solutions. And the number one solution I push in the newsletter is tactical urbanism. Like, this is something we can do. This is what Hoboken does. This is what Jersey City does. And now people are starting to go, oh, okay, let's do that. How do we do it? We held a traffic safety forum in the beginning of March at a school by my house. We had like 65 people from the newsletter come out. We had people drawing on maps. How would they change their problematic neighborhood streets overnight through tactical urbanism? We showed them, here's what you got. You can put up bollards, you can put up paint, you can put up planters, you can put up temporary roundabouts. What would you do? And people started drawing them out and figuring out what they want to do. And they go, and we look at it and go, man, that's like a $10,000 job. That's a $100,000 job. Not unsurmountable amounts of money. So Slow Down Sacramento, it starts with this like advocacy and awareness campaign about let's all drive safer, let's drive slower speeds save lives. But on the next level, it's now what's the policy that we're going to do to make this happen? What's the policy that we're going to bring to Sacramento to make it real? And so educating people about tactical urbanism and telling them when I need them to come down to city council or what I want them to say is helping to build the other narrative. Because the narrative the city really gets most of the time is don't slow me down. Don't slow down my streets. Don't put in speed bumps. Those are the people who call the city the most. I want the people who call the city the most going forward to be, yes, bring these things in my neighborhood, or I won't wait 10 years and $100 million from now. I want this $15,000 solution. How do we do it? I want it. We want it here. And so that's what we're working on. And I'm hoping, very, very soon that we'll be proposing policy to the city of Sacramento. And so that's where we're going at. The response has been overwhelming. I got to tell you, it's just been great. The Office of Traffic Safety recognized this right away, gave us some seed money for materials, which is great. We go to public events all the time, neighborhood associations to give presentations. The media has been very kind. I've been interviewed many times on TV now about these issues. So we're starting to fill this space where there wanted to be a conversation. People wanted to talk about this. People wanted to direct their energy somewhere about this, clearly. And we're filling that niche, and I'm hopefully going to have the solution, very, very soon in tactical urbanism. But people are going to have to step up. They say, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So trying to bring all these people along with me. We're all going to go far together. We're going to get to tactical urbanism as a toolbox piece in Sacramento soon.
For sure. Thank you, Isaac, for sharing all that. That's a. I'm so glad we brought you onto Urban Beginnings because, we believe people like you and the just the way you think and see places and issues, and you talk about awareness, education, advocacy, and now you eventually want to start recommending or proposing policy changes to our governmental leaders. So again, I respect a lot what you do. I know it's not easy. Sometimes I also appreciate that you say, the other narrative, because that is very important. I work for the city of Bakersfield. I do. I'm more focused on affordable housing. So sometimes we do hear or read in the internet about affordable housing and whatnot, and all types of just having a diversity of housing is a good thing for a city because not everyone needs a single family home. So just kind of thinking about all those things that you're currently doing and us learning more about it. I have visited your website. There is a lot of information right there that can be, I don't want to call it triggering, but it can be very it can spark more interest. Certainly there are a lot of things that I've seen through your LinkedIn page, and I'm going to sign up for that newsletter now. But there's a lot of things that I would like to share to our transportation department or at Public Works here at the city. Just to plant that seed and also get them thinking about what's going on in other cities like Sacramento. I wanted to. I know Blair mentioned that you are the vice chair of the Active Transportation Commission of the City of Sacramento. Can you talk a little bit of what inspired you to pursue a commissioner role, and what does the appointment process kind of entail for you?
Sure. Before I say that, though, I want to tell you, Rogello, like you and I could be brothers in another timeline because my mom and dad moved out of Lamont right before I was born. And all my cousins and everyone are still down in Bakersfield. My cousins, my tia, my uncle, everybody. You know, my grandfather is 100 years old. He lives in Lamont still. So I go down there a lot,
Oh
and
wow!
I serve on the Cow Bike board now. Recently, I just joined, and the Bakersfield Bicycle Coalition. I think it's Cynthia Rose. She's a member of the Cowboy board too. So I know there's great strides that need to be made in Bakersfield, but I'm
Mhm.
glad like you are working on it and people like you, and I think Bakersfield can get there too. So kudos to you. Keep up the work. Anything on my website you want, steal it. I don't care. Like none of it's mine. It's ours. So keep up the good work with affordable housing. Um, so the Active Transportation Commission is a funny one. So there are seats that are appointed by a council member, the seats that are appointed by the mayor. There are seats like reserved for like an engineer, and there's like these at-large seats that like anyone can apply for. And the at-large seat became available, and so I applied for it. And I'm like, oh, I want to get in this commission. I want to like be part of the voice on this thing. And then right before like the interview day, my council member called me and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna have my seat's gonna be vacant pretty soon. I want to appoint you to the Active Transportation Commission." I'm like, awesome, that's great. I had a backup. So I went to the interview meeting for this open seat, and they're like, "We heard you're gonna get a seat anyway," so they didn't give me that one. But then like a month later, my council member appointed me to it because he knew I was very passionate about it, and he knew that it would be a good place for me. The term is 4 years, and you can be renewed, I believe, once to serve again. We meet once a month, except for the months of July and December when they're in recess. And we work with staff to talk about upcoming projects and issues that are important to us that we need to focus on, and we give feedback on it. And I gotta say, I like a lot of the staff in the city of Sacramento. I know them. I know they're all good people, but I've been pretty critical of them, unfortunately, from the DS. I've had to tell them a couple of times, like, we have to do better than this. Like, I understand the culture they're coming from and inside. Like, they're aspirational. They start from a place of aspiration, and I think projects get whittled down to like the compromise. And I want to push staff to go like no compromises. Do the pie in the sky big thing that you want to do. My first Active Transportation Mission meeting, we had this very nice man. I've worked with him many times on other projects. He's actually a parent at my kid's school. Like, I like him a lot. And he was telling me how they were going to put up these like black wrought iron gates or fences in medians in my old home neighborhood of South Sacramento to prevent people from crossing outside the marked crosswalks. And there's these off the shelf black wrought iron fences. And I said, there's enough people who have bad experiences with bars in this neighborhood.
Yeah.
You understand like the emotional trauma that you give when you just start putting bars up in people's neighborhood? And I was like, he goes, yeah, but we just wanted something quick and dirty. I'm like, no, quick and dirty is not good. I was like offended. I was like, quick and dirty we have to strive for better than quick and dirty. Like, that is not acceptable. And then last Active Transportation Commission meeting, we had an engineer come and bring proposals for rapid flashing beacons. Those crosswalk buttons you push and you get a little yellow light. I like to call them, optional lights because nobody follows them. They just blow right through them. And so we have this engineer. He's telling us about all these places he wants to put in these beacons. And I asked him, I said, "What's the vehicle code? What is a motorist required to do by law when one of those is activated?" And he said, "Nothing. There's no law. There's nothing on the books." I was like, "So why are we putting them in? It's not calming traffic. It's not decreasing the speeds. It's not making the area any more conducive to walk. It's just giving the pedestrian some kind of false sense of security that if they push a button, maybe somebody will stop for me, maybe." And so, again, like, I like staff and I appreciate what they're trying to do, and I know their limitations and their obstacles, but we've been pushing them pretty hard. And I'm not the only one. Other commissioners have been doing it too. So I think our role is to push people toward a place where we're like not accepting good enough, and really trying to get to world-class active transportation infrastructure. I hope we can get there, but it's a battle. It's a real battle.
So, we started this podcast because we love hearing from people like you and
Mm-hmm.
elevating your story and really just focusing on all the amazing work that you're doing. And you had posted something a couple of weeks ago on LinkedIn, and, we both recognize that, like, you know, community leaders, if you want to call them that, they often don't follow a specific formula. And a lot of this work just begins by, consistently and genuinely participating in your community. Inspiring others and affecting local change. I think it's really admirable. And, Rogelio and I talk about this a lot, that, many people in the planning field don't engage in gatekeeping. And, that numerous individuals like us have humble beginnings, really rooted in a desire to make a difference. I was just wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing more about the importance of authentically showing up.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the post where I said I want people to know I didn't go to college. Like is that the one you're talking? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really big part, and to be honest, like it was a source of shame for me for a long time, right? Because I don't know, I'm kind of a smart guy, or I get passive smart when you talk to me, and people always say to you like, "Oh, where'd you go to school?" And and it's like this. Oh, well, actually, I didn't go to school. I was kind of a knucklehead when I was 18 and 19, and didn't get my head on straight till like my mid-20s, and homeless for a little while. And people are like, "Oh," and then they get uncomfortable. Like, okay, now we're both uncomfortable. Great, but the truth of the matter is like I just I didn't go to college after high school. I finished high school and had to get my head on straight. But I have spent my whole life in this city. I've been afforded so many opportunities by kind people who, gave me a chance to prove myself, to prove that I was worth the work I was doing or the reputation that I think I've earned. Um, that has elevated me to a place, I think, of legitimacy with most people when they talk to me. And I've learned some very difficult, hard lessons along the way through advocacy. Sometimes I spoke before I knew what I was talking about. Sometimes I entered a conversation with preconceived notions that wasn't fair to the other person I was talking to. It's been about 13, 14 years now of this, where now I think I've really come to a place of like, I want radical change, but I'm a pragmatic person and I want to be kind to people. Again, like I said, like I'm lambasting these city staffers from the dais, and I feel bad for them because they're good people. There's nobody at the city of Sacramento going, I just want cars to drive faster and run over people. But they're working at this institutional, like, bureaucracy that whittles down their dreams to like these compromises. So, and I'm speaking about that, right? I'm saying the thing in the room that people like think but don't say, I hope.
Yeah.
Like these are the truths that we need to start acknowledging. You need to acknowledge as a city engineer that you're afraid. You're afraid to be bold. Someone slapped your hand one time when you stepped out of bounds, and now you don't want to do it like that again. And you rather just sit at your desk and not get noticed and push along the things that you know will not get you in trouble. You need to say that. And I need to say as an advocate that I know you don't have the money to do everything I want. And I know that I'm being nice to you, but most people yell at you and say, why didn't you fix my street? Or what are you going to do something about this? Or why can't you get rid of that homeless person? Because no matter what you do in the city, people say, homeless person. Anyways, you know what I'm saying? Like most people aren't as considerate as I'm trying to be, even when I'm being critical. Most people are just pretty rude when they're being critical to our public officials and our civil servants. We need to say these things and have this honest conversation. And I think when we do, and we expose our vulnerability and our intentions, we can at least work within our means. That's all I want. I'm not saying like tomorrow the city of Sacramento needs to have $500 million and get all these road guys done. What I'm saying is, what are our means? What are the resources we have today? And what can we do within that with a little sweat equity, with a little bit of bravery, and just a little bit of luck? Maybe we can do these things. So for me, like now, after all these years of not being a college graduate and trying to like say like I'm level-headed. If you work with me, I'm not going to burn you. I don't walk in the room and throw grenades. I'm trying to work with people where they are and understand where they are, but I have a vision that I want to get to that is radical. I know it's radical because it's not what we're doing right now. I'm not saying let's do what we're doing right now better. I'm saying no, let's do something completely different. Not abandon, but don't pigeonhole yourself or into this. We have to do the 10-year, $500 million grant pursuing, our corridor project that's going to take forever. Like, don't just do that. Do these other things too. Let's do them little by little. Like, I'm totally stealing from Strong Towns. Let's do the smallest thing we can do today, fix it, and then go to the next smallest thing and fix it, and keep going and keep going and keep going one by one. I think there's a bit of paralysis because there's so many problems in our city.
Yeah.
That people go like, it is such a big deal. We don't even know where to start. We can't do anything. And even if we could, which one would be first? How do we pick? And I'm just saying, pick the little thing on your block, in your neighborhood. Fix that. And not even just like city staff. Like, why does it have to be city staff? It could be just neighbors. We should be emboldened to fix the built environment if we think think we can do it. I'm all for. I'm not going to tell people what to do, but if they think, hey, I can fix that tomorrow, give it a shot. You'd be surprised what you can get away with when you put on a yellow fluorescent vest. Like, do it. But yeah, I mean, to your point, it's just like, just be real. And I admire and appreciate everybody, with the letters behind their name that they earned by going to college and paying all that money or getting their scholarships. And I'm envious of it because I know when I was 18, I did not want to go to school anymore. But right now, like, I love learning new things, and I would love to go back to college. If that's in my future, awesome. But I think if we could just be honest with one another and say the things that maybe we're all thinking, but we can't seem to say out loud because we're scared to say it out loud and acknowledge it. I mean, our world basically is not the way it should be. This is not the final version of things, right? We can do better anywhere we look. So let's do a little better. Just do a little better.
Yeah, I've found that I've gotten really far on things by just, authentically asking people like for support and to be involved and to join me. And so I think a lot of the things you're saying are really important. And thank you so much for sharing so much about yourself and about all the different things that you do. I want to be really respectful of your time. And so we're getting very close to that 1 hour marker. Is there anything else that you want to share with us today, professionally, personally? I don't know if you want to talk about tiki stuff or anything. We're pretty open.
No, just if my LinkedIn, I think, is Isaac Gonzalez Jr. I think on LinkedIn. If you want to look for me, would love follows. I love LinkedIn. It's like the most positive social media space. I feel like for the most part, everyone's just trying to compliment each other and talk about the positive things they're working on. We need social media like that. So please follow me on there, or Sacramento Isaac on Instagram. I try to share my travels and my tiki stuff. If you want to see me on there, slowdownsacramento.org. You can go on there and find out more about us. And if you click on sign up and finish that, I'll never spam you. I'll just send you an email once a week about policy. And I'll talk to anybody. And I do talk to anybody. Like, people do reach out and they say, hey, can I just bend your ear about this? And I'm like, oh, just sure. Everything that I've gleaned from someone else. I don't have an original thought in my head. I'm impressed by other people's work, and I try to emulate it. If I can emulate it and augment it to work for whatever I want to do, that's all I've ever done. I have not invented anything. So if someone asks me for help, I'm going to give you that help and hope that it's beneficial to you and you augment it to your needs and you take it somewhere else. So please reach out to me, or you know what, my email is sacramentoisaac@gmail.com. You can just email me straight up directly, and I'll answer any question that I can. And if I can't, I will more often than not point you to someone that can.
For sure. Isaac, I have like one last question.
Yeah.
So, Urban Beginnings, our logo is pretty. We do, I guess, I drew these letters, UB, purple, kind of to remember and honor my mom. Green, kind of staying positive, and the background of orange, awareness. And that's kind of like what our logo kind of means for us. I noticed. I wanted to ask you for Slow Down Sacramento. Is Yeah? Can you talk a little bit about your logo? To me, it kind of looks like a computer. I don't know. Just it looks like some sort of computer component. But can you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, sure. So that was something that kind of came to me. It's a simple logo. So I do have a bit of a background in PR, and I got to work at a PR agency one time, and got to see many graphic designers make really cool things. And one thing I realized about like a good logo is it's got to be able to be scalable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if it's on a mobile device or on your desktop or on a TV screen or on a lawn sign, you should be able to see it, right? Shouldn't be a Rorschach test. Like, what is that thing? But in a way, also too, like it should be what people think it is. So you think it's a computer chip because the square with these lines around it kind of looks like the soldering points on a computer chip, right? My kid, my son says it looks like a crosswalk because it's kind of like a crosswalk. My daughter says it looks like a beacon telling people to slow down. So it's kind of like whatever people want it to be, which is I like. Um, but it's just something that like I want people to see and one day realize like that's a slow down. That means slow down. Like we don't have a slow down sign. We have a stop sign, we have yield signs, we have all these other signs, but we don't have like a universal slow down sign. So maybe one day that will be our universal slow down sign. And we also don't have a blue light. We have a red light, yellow light, green light, and so our color is a blue background with a white logo on it. So it's it's just slow down. But it is whatever you want it to be, But there is a subliminal message in the logo. Let me see if I can find one here.
Love
We got
it,
some
man.
bumper stickers. We got some bumper stickers printed. So cool thing about the logo is there are 4 down arrows in the words "Slow Down Sacramento" in the W's. That's a custom W, and they point down. So slow down Sacramento. So I'm really happy with that. That was kind of a neat thing. But yeah, it's a fun logo. I like it, and like I said, it is what you want it to be.
I actually call it a pedestrian scramble. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Love it.
Oh, thanks.
And thank you both for inviting me and for doing this and having this conversation. I think it's so important to have it, from both your perspectives. And again, Rodella, I just love that you're in Bakersfield and doing this. Like I have such a special place in my heart for Bakersfield and Kern County in general. I spent my summer. I don't know why, but I spent my summers down there as a kid. Most people want to go somewhere like the beach, but my family was sending me down to grandma's house, and I was in Lamont in the summertime getting heat stroke. But I have an affinity for it because I just remember it so much. And Ming Avenue and the mall over there. I spent many many days in that mall. And so anyway, so I just really love Bakersfield, and you guys have a great tiki bar. You know that too down there.
Oh, Tiki Co.
Tiki Co is amazing. It's one of the best tiki bars I've ever been in. None of it was one of the best tiki bars I've ever been in the front, and then I went into the secret one in the underground, and I was like, it's even better. It's bigger and even better. So it's got 2 awesome tiki bars in one location. So definitely anyone, Sacramento's a bit of a punching bag in a lot of circles, halfway between San Francisco and Tahoe, or a bit of a joke. And I think Bakersfield gets that reputation too. But Bakersfield is awesome. Bakersfield's a great town. And anyone who lives there knows that.
Rogelio, you have to take me to that tiki bar.
Yeah.
Oh, don't. Hey, tell me when you go too. I want to go back. It was great. They have an absinthe tiki drink, and which I've never had anywhere else. Really good.
But the tiki bar, like the one out above ground, it's like so small. Like I believe it's an occupancy of like 15 people.
Yeah.
So there's always a line. Yeah. But it's so good, worth the wait.
I got there when I went there. I took my cousins and we went right when it opened, so get right in. And we sat there for like 4 hours, and then we walked down. And they're like, "Oh, there's another one." And then you go downstairs, and it's big. It's really big down there. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But so fantastic. Just 2 thumbs up.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much again. We super appreciate you. We appreciate the conversation. We hope to have you on again, maybe to advance this conversation or talk about something else. Who knows?
Anytime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anytime, just
Thank
let me
you
know.
so
You guys
much.
keep up the great work. Love the show. Love everything you're doing.
Appreciate it.
Likewise.
All right.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Keep doing the work, keep showing up, keep being awesome.
And like always, sending you good vibes.